Hi, thank you so much. It's Margot coming to you from Limitless Empowerment, and I appreciate you tuning in for this series, just spending some time outside in the sun, which is absolutely beautiful. If I sort of lean this way, you'll see the sun is right there, and I'm just really loving the warmth of its rays and the birds chirping and an extremely blue sky here in Sydney today. So I wanted to speak about negative emotions. And when I refer to negative emotions, just to be clear and specific, I'm talking about the major negative emotions that we experience as humans, as individuals in our lives. Things such as anger, sadness, guilt, fear, shame, hurt, and so on. These are major negative emotions that when they are present in our life, or they occur from specific experiences and events, or even potentially occur from ancestral or geological attachments in our life, generations and ancestors before us. These major negative emotions impact how we proceed, how we function, how we feel, how we see, how we show up, how we hear. They will govern how we perceive our relationships, our career, our life, our choices, our intimate relationships, our relationships with our family members, potentially with our children, or our spouse, whichever you have in your life. And these negative emotions that I also refer to will affect the body in how it actually shows up in a calm and operative manner, and that neurologically we are actually responding from a calm nervous system that is functioning the way it's designed. Now, when we're actually holding on to major negative emotions, our body is not showing up and not responding and not healing and not doing what it is designed to do, because we're functioning from a position of stress internally. Now, we may not feel this. We may not even be aware of the amount of stress or the level of stress that we're experiencing, because maybe from a conscious level, we've done a really, really great job masking what it is that we're feeling. And therefore we tell each other our little white lies of, I'm actually doing okay, and I'm not as bad as I people may perceive me to be, and I don't feel anger, I don't experience anger, I'm okay. But then something may happen that will set off our trigger, and all of a sudden we're angry, we're feeling anger. We've gone from no anger at all to, anger at its extreme in potentially seconds, if not even less than seconds. It could be a very short stint of anger. We could feel it and it could subside very quickly, but anger is present within us. Now, is that anger ours? Is that anger experienced because of something we've gone through in our actual life after birth? Is anger something that we potentially have taken on board while in the womb of our mother? Is anger something that's not even ours entirely, in the essence that we've taken it on board from our ancestors, or maybe generations before us? Maybe there was anger somewhere through our geological line that has attached itself, and by it attaching itself, depending on your belief system, it's actually moved with us into our life as well. What I'll give you an example of here is, and this is something, culturally I'm Lebanese in background, so there could be certain traditional beliefs and responses that the Lebanese culture has had over time. And I'm talking an extensive amount of time, past world events that have happened to those that are living and residing in Lebanon, the wars that they've experienced, the invasions of other countries, the rulings, those that have come into power, those that have gone out of power, the economic side effects of all that, the impact it's had on the people. As time and history plays itself out, certain events and experiences create emotions and moments in time that begin to attach themselves to that ancestral line, which is your life, your family line, or to the generations before you. So that's just one aspect of focusing on the entire culture, and not even coming in and focusing even more specifically on your family line and where your family origins have come from and what experiences your family have gone through. I worked with a client a few months ago who was actually working through anger with me, and kept saying to me, look, I don't really feel like I feel anger. So we went through a couple of tests, couple of conversations where she volunteered in the next session that anger is something that pops up. It just pops up really quick, really slight. She's never really taken much notice of it before, but when it does happen, and even though it happens for only a split second, she feels the effects it has on her body, on her physiology. She feels the effects it has on her nervous system, and she was not happy about that. But to move forward through a breakthrough session, we needed to move and work with anger. We needed to, when I say move anger, we need to work with anger so that anger no longer is an obstacle or a limitation for you. So we need to work with that through the timeline, through timeline therapy, and alleviate or remove anger for the client that I'm working with. As we began the technique, the process of removing anger through timeline therapy, I will begin to obviously elicit the timeline, but I also start to ask the question, if your unconscious mind was to answer me, what would be the very first event, the very first time that once removed will actually take anger away for you? And is this something that you experienced after birth, during, as in the womb, or before, meaning ancestral or geological lines? And the interesting part for this client and what she went through and experienced is that her response to me was 10,000 years before my birth. And don't get me wrong, in the moment when she said that, just so that I'm really transparent with what I'm explaining here, it took her a moment to register what had actually come up for her. And that was her unconscious mind giving her the answer and trusting the process entirely. And she said it was 10,000 years before my birth. Anger, that's where anger comes from. Now, yes, you can argue this is not her anger. This is an anger that it was actually ancestral. It was ancestral anger that has come on board with her through her ancestral line. And though it's not her anger, it's still existing in her life. It's still governing how she shows up. It's still governing how her body responds, and the limitations, the obstacles, the challenges, everything that anger will cause you not to have, and everything that anger will cause your body to go through and experience. All of the things that we do not want to live with, because we want to live a healthy, a happy, and prosperous life. We want a life that we love. We want a life that we love to live. So working through timeline therapy with this client, we actually went back to the very first event, and there was images and thoughts, which I won't actually share with you as it was private for her, but there were images and thoughts that she actually was witnessing events that were playing out, and understood clearly what was happening, that anger became a part of her timeline. And in that moment, she took away the learnings, understood what it was she needed to know from that event. And as she came back through her timeline from then till now, she was able to actually go to any other event where anger was present, take the learnings as well, and keep moving along. And yes, this did take time, and however long it takes, that's each for each individual. And as she came back to now, watching the shifts that was happening in her as her coach, watching while working with her, how her body, her physiology, her sense, everything was just shifting as she got back to now. She walked away, and I do what I do because it adds value to people's lives, and I can see the impact, and it's positive, and it's reinforcing their ability, their way, their love to live again. This woman couldn't stop saying thank you to me, because as days and weeks went on, she rang me sometime afterwards and said to me, something actually just happened, and normally in the past, I know for a fact I would have gotten really angry about this, but I didn't, and this is how I responded instead, and it came automatic, and I feel so great. I feel like I'm in control of my life, and now I have the choice. I can choose how it is I'm going to live. And she said the reason that she felt empowered, even though we've all got choice. Everybody has choice with absolutely everything that they do. You always have a choice to make. No matter what, there's no such thing as I have to. You choose to take on that have. But she said, now knowing that I feel empowered, that I have a choice, and I'm not governed by the automatic reaction embedded within me, meaning when something triggered me off previously and I would normally get angry, I'd normally get angry without even, there was no thought path to it, I would just do it. Okay, it was like, that's how my body was engineered to respond. It was engraved in me. I couldn't even stop it from happening. Before I knew it, I was angry. She goes, I'm now back in control. I now respond the way I want to respond. And anger is no longer making me feel the things I used to feel before. And you know what I've also noticed? My body is thanking me for it. She had quite a reaction that would happen through her skin whenever she'd go under stress, anxiety, all types of emotions. And that's normally an indication that something's obviously not functioning right for your body. You're holding trauma, you're holding emotions somewhere, and your body's responding by, looking like it's detoxifying itself from all that crap. And she said to me, one thing that's really stood out to her, one thing that's really highlighted, is her skin's a lot better. And also, because she's not feeling stressed anymore, because she was obviously stressed at quite a high level from the anger she was unconsciously experiencing. She also said another thing, her psoriasis has completely settled down, if not pretty much evaporated, dissolved, gone. And this is something that she'd been working on from a medical background, trying to manage and deal with her psoriasis. And just from the shifts that she's experienced within herself through the coaching, her body's responded in such an amazing way. It's actually healing itself, and she feels so much better all round. And that to me is, amazing. It's why I do what I do. So negative emotions, major negative emotions, are very impactful in your life and generally done at an unconscious level. Sometimes we're not aware of it, sometimes we are. And we need to understand what it actually does to our body, how our body responds to the emotions that we are harvesting, the emotions that we are holding on to, where them emotions are actually created from, the event, the very first event, because there's going to be many events after the very first events enacted in your timeline. Understanding how and what to be able to do to remove negative emotions from your life. This way alleviating any kind of obstacle, any limitation, just smashing through it all so that you get to live the life you want. Something I'm extremely passionate about. Ensure that you always work with a qualified timeline therapy practitioner. And if it's something you want to discuss even more with me, I'd love for you to reach out. Always open to feedback. Please ensure that you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications for my channel. And there'll be many more on this topic as I continue uploading my series. Anyways, have an amazing day wherever you are in the world. Take care.